And then Prabhupada said, simply read my books and repeat what I've written, then your preaching will be perfect. So we all want to share Krishna consciousness with others. That's part of, we've received it. And as Krishna house devotees, we want to expand. We want to bring new devotees into our communities. So when we're sharing Krishna consciousness, then if we've studied Prabhupada's books, then we have something to share. Right? When I was in Mayapur, I was taking the Bhakti Vai Baba course, and there was one sannyasi who was in my class, and the teacher on the first day said, Maharaj, you're already a sannyasi, why are you taking Bhakti Vai Baba now? He said, well, I travel around preaching, and I found myself just saying the same old things again and again everywhere I go. And I felt like I had kind of tapped out my resources, and I need to get more. I need to receive more so that I have more to give. So the more we study Prabhupada's books, the more we receive and take it in, then the more we have to give as preachers. We have quality, to have a quality presentation that attracts people. And then Prabhupada very famously said, I shall never die. I shall live forever in my books. So someone mentioned that when we read Prabhupada's books, we're personally associating with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada would stay up practically all night, alone, translating his books, dictating his purports. And he said that these purports are my ecstasies. That he would be in this ecstatic mood, this very intimate mood of deep meditation and reflection on Krishna. And in that state of ecstasy, transcendental ecstasy, he would dictate his purports. So the association that we get with Prabhupada and his purports is a really heightened, pure, inspiring association, right? It's not just like sometimes, you might be associating with a devotee and they're just kind of cleaning their room or, going through their accounts or something, and you happen to be around them. So you're associating with them. That's a kind of, you can't say you're with them. But if you catch that person when they're they just heard something wonderful and they're ecstatic and they're wow, this is amazing, let me share my latest realization with you, that's next level, right? So every one of Prabhupada's purports is when he's in that next level of, ecstatic realization and reflection and connection with Krishna. That's what he's giving us in every one of his purports. So not only is Prabhupada very alive in his books, but he's alive in the most transcendental way. And we can access him there. So then, hearing all these reasons and knowing most of these reasons too, we might think, well, why is it that I don't regularly read Srila Prabhupada's books? Because we all know that we should, but often reading is one of those things that gets neglected. Right? Maybe if we don't have anything else to do, we're completely bored out of our skulls, we might pick up, Bhagavad Gita and, okay, let me just read a little bit then, But it tends to be one of those activities that if the to-do list gets a little too long, then that's the thing that we never quite get to on the list. So then I want you all to just grab a partner, just turn to the person next to you so that you have a partner, and share with your partner, what are your personal obstacles to having regular and quality reading of Srila Prabhupada's books? Very much. I hope you all had a chance to share. I'd like to hear some of these obstacles are. So if anyone wants to share, yes.
So when we first started talking, he had mentioned time. Was the first thing, and that was the first thing that came to my mind as well. But when I started thinking about it, I think time is the excuse that I use for not doing it, and that somewhere in my heart, not in my head necessarily, but in my heart, I'm not having enough faith in Prabhupada's writing, and I'm not seeing the necessity in my life. And kind of the example that I used was, there was a point in time when I thought I was never going to chant 16 rounds a day. Neat, people do that, that's great. I would never be a person who would be doing that. And when I made a commitment to that, the universe made time in my day and it fit. and I haven't done that with reading. So I think that, like, I use time all the time why I don't do it, but I think that's just the excuse I make for some other things that I need to work on.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing, because that's really deep. Because a lot of us just say no time. But there's something, if we really understood the importance, if we really had the faith, then, you know, like we all said, you know, there's so many important reasons. It's probably like the most valuable thing that we could do with our time, but we do everything else first. So we have to really do some deep introspection and be like, why don't I make time for it, right? Thank you so much. Is that fair?
When we were talking, we could really understand that it's just like a lack of the desire to enter into that space. And personally, living in the ashram, I go to Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning, and I have Bhakti Shastri in the evening, and so sometimes when I have free time, I'm just like, oh, I'd rather just not. I'm already studying in these other times, but yeah, so it's just a lack of understanding, and we want instant sense gratification rather than like long-term fulfillment. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Yes, right here.
So like sometimes when I read those books, I feel like it's too philosophical.
Okay.
I cannot understand and I'm so confused. Like some things I understand, but some things I'm like so frustrated. Oh.
Wow, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Raise your hand if you feel like Prabhupada's books are philosophical and hard to understand. You're not the only one. Right? And I'm sure that's a big reason why many people don't read them regularly and spend a lot of time. Yes.
It can seem like a daunting task because there's so much to read that, like, you know, it can seem like, how do I even start? Where do I start? What should I do? Like, how can I even get through this in a lifetime if I need to read 100 pages a day? Like, it can seem like we can kind of set these traps for ourselves to know.
Yeah, like if you're going to start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it can seem like a big commitment, you know, like, okay, I'll read a little bit now, but there's all this like 18 volumes hanging over my head, you know, it becomes like a heavy burden on the mind. Yes.
Not having a devotee, at least one every day that I can read with. Because
Okay.
I find like on my own I can get distracted or whatever, but if I have somebody, we can read for hours and hours.
Okay, good. So that's already starting to move towards a solution, right, to the problem. But yeah, if you don't have that, that's a problem. Anytime?
I could relate what Prabhupada said, that sometimes we don't feel like we have the necessity to read. Like if I have a chant in my rounds, I say, and they all say, I need to chant. But I never find myself telling myself that I need to read because I haven't read today. Because I haven't prioritized it enough as my other vows that I've made.
We don't understand how much we actually need it. Yeah, we think I'm good, you know. I'm gonna go eat Hare Krishna. Way there in the back.
Yeah, so the prioritization I feel like is the main issue here, prioritizing the all other activities that we have in our life going on to live in this society. And then also sometimes I feel like okay, the basics are very clear. So the practicing is prioritizing that over the reading the books.
The basics are clear, so there's kind of like a sense that Prabhupada's books are giving us the basics, and I already know that, so I just need to roll up my sleeves and practice.
Practice that.
Okay, thank you. Mataji?
Sometimes you get discouraged when you don't retain the stuff that you already read, or when you feel like you're not able to apply, or if Prabhupada seems to hold us to a very high standard, and I feel like I'm always falling short.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, good, thank you. Yes.
I feel like sometimes I read out of mechanics, like I know I have to read, so I just pick up the book and I read it, but maybe I'm not really like retaining what I'm reading, and I'm not reading it with the like emotion behind it, with like that desperation for understanding. I'm just reading because I have to read.
So it's just kind of superficial, I'm doing it out of duty, and it doesn't really sink in. Yeah. So then you don't get the taste, so then you don't feel inspired to read the next time, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a couple more, one right in the front and then way in the back.
Sure. Hi, so work gets in the way. So I run my own business, and it's picking up because of, you know, this, and now my time is less to read, and it's been affecting me a lot lately, actually. So.
Yeah. Because sometimes we're just juggling too much in life, and sometimes we need to kind of like scale down the other engagements and actually, like, sometimes we literally don't have time, right? So now we need to make some adjustments. Okay, and back there?
We don't have like a dedicated time for reading. Like for japa, it's like the expectation is after after Tulsi Puja, we sit down, maybe 10 to 5 minutes, and we chat until Darshanarti. But for reading, we don't have that time where it's like the same. So either it just doesn't happen, or it happens really, really late at night, which is like the same effects as like any other sadhana having it at like 10 p.m. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So every temple has like a designated time for japa, for guru puja, for class, for prasada, but there's no designated reading time. So that requires ourselves, you know, we have to make that time ourselves. So we're going to talk about that. And so these are all really good reasons. Oh, Bhakti Mark Swami, I'll take it off.
Reading is becoming more and more austere. People are used to Instagram, TikTok, this and that, everything's fast.
Yeah.
I don't need to read, I need to see something in action. It's going to last for about 15 seconds. 10 years from now, it might be 5 seconds. So that's a challenge for a lot of people now.
Yeah, that's actually.
Have a book.
I have a
Takes up
slide.
so much space.
I have a slide on that. Can y'all read that? Just open it and read it. You don't need a password. So yeah, if we do have some spare time, we're not accustomed to picking up books anymore, right? Of course, hopefully you all got Prabhupada's books on your phones, but you know, we don't use books anymore. Like we don't hold paper in our hands anymore. It's all digital. So yeah, that's something. And as soon as you pick up the digital device, even if you pick it up with the intention of going to database or database or something, there's so many other things that grab your attention first. And an hour can pass and you're just like, why did I pick up my phone again? Oh yeah, I was supposed to read. Oops, well I gotta go, it's too late. Right? So, all right, so then, thank you all for sharing all of your difficulties. And does everybody feel kind of understood? You sort of feel like we have a lot in common here, as we're all suffering the same, we're all encountering the same obstacles. So let's talk about some ideas. And so these are some ideas that I had to that have helped me, or that I know that have helped others. So we'll go through these, and then you can also, if there's something that I didn't touch on that you think that really worked for you, then I'll invite you to share also. So one thing here is, like was mentioned, set aside a sacred reading time. That this is my time when I read, and I don't do anything else during that time. For me, when I was a new devotee, I really needed to read. And I was doing full-time book distribution, and otherwise there wouldn't have been time in my schedule. It was just like bam, 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 from the time I got up to the time I went to bed, and even then I wasn't getting enough sleep. But then I talked to the Sankirtan leader, I said, I really need to read. And finally he agreed that I could stop, because we would be on the street from 10 to 4, distributing books. 10 to 5, sorry. So he agreed you can stop at 4, just sit down in a park or shopping center or anywhere on the curb and just read from 4 to 5, and then meet up with the devotees and come back to the temple. So that I started doing it every single day from 4 to 5, and that way I read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam in whatever park, shopping center, or on wherever I was. So I was very religious about that, and everybody knew that that's what it was, and everybody respected it, and nobody asked me to do anything. And usually I would read out loud too. So if I was at the temple, I would sit somewhere and be reading out loud, because then no one disturbs you. If you're reading silently, they think you're not doing anything. If you read out loud, they're like, seriously, you're just sitting there staring at a book. They don't understand that something's going on there. But if you're reading out loud, it's like, okay, I get it, they're reading, I won't bother them, hopefully. So that worked for me, and that's something really important. And then we get into a regulated routine of reading. It becomes like part of our motor memory. And then this was mentioned by Ajit, to get a reading buddy. Kalakandru says that reading is best done in twos. So if you get together with somebody who also wants to read regularly, and then there's accountability, so that you have an accountability partner. And so you need to show up for the other person, right? Otherwise they'll be disappointed and they'll think you're an unreliable person. Yeah?
Then the challenge is like, okay, which book am I reading where you're at? Are you reading where somebody has to surrender to wherever the other person
is. So there are challenges with that. You have to compromise, and then the problem with this also is that you're ready to read, but the other person, some emergency came up and they can't, and then you're just like, oh well, I guess it's not happening today. And if that happens 2 or 3 days in a row, it's almost over. Yeah, it's just really hard to get the the momentum up again. So this works when it works, but also it's dependent on factors beyond your control. So it may not always work. And then this is something is to start or join an existing reading group or start one. And there are a lot of these online that you can just plug into. I know Prema does one, Priya, I think we do one, right? So different devotees have different reading groups, and you can just zoom in and read. So that's a nice thing. And because it's a group, it's more likely to happen even if one or two members can't attend on any particular day. So that can be really helpful. Another thing is, I put this down here because it may not work for everyone, but some of our, I think most of our Krishna House projects, we're studying a curriculum for Srimad Bhagavatam where we cover many verses each day. And so we usually don't get to all of the purports. We'll cover, one in full and essential points from other ones. And I know that Nanda Braja does this, that every day he'll read the whole section with all the purports before the next day's class. So he pre-reads that section from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then when he shows up for Bhagavatam class, it's like he's like on it, he's like, he knows what it is, he's got all the points. If any questions come up during his private reading, he can bring those up to the speaker of class, who's giving class. And that kind of like disciplines you into regular reading because you have to keep up with the classes, you don't want to fall behind. So that's an idea. And then another thing, this is what I've done, and I love this kind of thing, and I know devotees who get a lot out of this, is to enroll in a Shastra course, like Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, and you enroll in one of these courses, and then, it's like you have to show up for the classes, and you're expected to read, and like that. So it keeps you connected. It kind of forces you to be on top of it and to read. And the benefit of courses like this is because you're not just reading, but you're in a sangha of like-minded people who love reading. They're like paying to take this course. So they understand the value of it and they're in it. And then you've also got an instructor. You've got someone that you can ask questions to, that as you go through the text, they're sharing their realizations. So I was trying to figure out why I like these courses so much. And then recently in Mayapur, devotee Haladar Maharaj was giving a class, and he was saying that better than just reading on our own is to hear from a senior devotee, because when a senior devotee speaks, they're not just giving knowledge, they're giving, along with the knowledge, they're giving their mercy. And by their mercy, we're able to understand more from the reading than we would if we were just reading it on our own. So, yeah, personally I've found so much joy in taking these kinds of courses, and it's really helped me to get a taste for reading. Because there was a time in my life where I would pick up the Bhagavatam or whatever I was reading and just start reading and just like fall asleep after 2 sentences. Anybody ever had that experience? So, yeah. But when you're hearing from someone, they make it so relevant and interesting, and their stories and their personal experiences, and they bring in other, commentaries, and it just creates this big picture of, it brings it to life, basically. So, yeah, these courses are really beneficial. I encourage everyone to enroll in Shastra courses to help you with your reading. And then once you get a taste, you can't give it up. It's like you're hooked. And then you'll read because you love to read, because you've experienced it. And then another thing you can do is teach Shastra, because if you're giving a class, right, anybody's ever given a Srimad Bhagavatam class or a Bhagavad Gita class, that's like the best reading that you ever did in your life, right? It's reading that verse or section to prepare for the class that you have to give. That's when your reading really hits like epic quality. So the more you teach, the more you need to read, and the more you read, the more you become qualified to teach, and then more people are going to ask you to teach, and then you're going to have to read more, and then you find yourself just like immersed in reading, preparing for your next class. So, which is really ecstatic. And I actually have a friend that she's doing Bhakti Vaibhava, and she told me, she said, if it was just me, I would never read. I don't have the self-discipline. So what she did to get through her Bhakti Vaibhava class was that she set up a reading group or a teaching. Actually, she started her own Bhakti Vaibhava class amongst younger devotees. And then whatever chapter they were covering the next day in her class, she would teach that chapter to her group in an online class. And that way she would get her reading done, because she's not able to be accountable to herself, but she always shows up for others. If she's got to be there to like give the class to a group of younger devotees, she'll be there, she'll be prepared, she'll have read it. So it works for her. So just a little strategy that could work if you're that kind of person that is really like, always shows up for other people. That'll force you to show up for yourself when the two things are aligned like that. So, yeah. So those are some ideas. Does anyone else have any other ideas they'd like to share? Yes?
Book distribution.
Book distribution.
You
Why?
have to know the books if you want to get them out. You
Okay,
have
good.
to be enthusiastic, and you have to be able to answer any questions that they give you about the philosophy.
Yeah, that's good. I remember I did a lot of book distribution. Whenever a new book would come out, I would always say, first I have to read it, then I'll distribute it. So I'd only distribute books that I had read, or at least read most of, for that reason. Good. Reggie?
Make it a goal that you're going to share something later in that day that you read. So it's kind of like the teaching, but I'm going to share something here, and you'll just automatically retain more.
Good, yeah, and you'll be looking for something, so you're not going to fall asleep because it's active, you're actively reading, yes. Yes.
Listening to lectures, like regular ministry of the working, that is some case for some sort of work.
Yeah, so if we're going to Bhagavatam classes or hearing lectures and getting inspired by those classes, then we'll be like, wow, Shastra, hearing Shastra is like, really feels good. And reading it probably does too. Let me try to read regularly. Yeah.
I have a question actually.
Sure.
I was wondering about the teaching Shastra thing. Like, how would one go about it? Sometimes one would feel like, oh, maybe I'm not qualified to do so, or there's already so many people teaching so many things. So how? Yeah. What would you say?
I mean, don't worry about not being qualified. If you're just like that quote of Prabhupada, if you just read my books and then repeat what I've said in your own words, your preaching is perfect.
But if you start with sharing, I'm just going to share this. And all of a sudden you start learning, oh, I can teach people. They didn't know that about it. Somebody, when they reciprocate with you, oh, that's such an interesting point you made. You're like, oh, I kind of was teaching. And it's just kind of naturally goes.
Yeah, thank you. And then to answer the second part of your question, like so many people already speaking, why should I speak? It reminded me of one time I was in Vrindaban and I was thinking of writing a book. And then Jadvi Maharaj was giving classes, something related like him. And then I asked him at the end of class, I said, Maharaj, I was thinking of writing a book, but then, Prabhupada wrote so many books, everything's there in Prabhupada's books, it's already been said, what's the point of me writing a book? And then he said, yeah, everything's already been said. So just say it again. And then he said, the more people are saying it, the more people are going to believe it. So yeah, so many people are saying it. Say it again. The more everyone should be saying it. The more people are saying it, the more people are going to believe it. Because why? Most people just follow the crowd. So somebody's saying Krishna is God. Another person said Krishna. Another person wants to say Krishna was God. I read it here too. Oh, I heard it on this YouTube video. Yeah, somebody posted something on my Instagram. Krishna must be God. So, yeah. Yeah.
Vaisheshika Prabhu has an app called Be a Sage Page by Page, and it makes it really easy to chunk it down into realistic daily goals.
Okay, good. Yeah. So if you need that kind of structured reading. Yes.
One of my friends gave me a great tip. He said, try to get your reading done before you start japa. He said most people take vows to finish japa. So if you do your reading before you do japa, then you get both done. But if you do your reading after you do japa, reading may or may not happen because you don't have any sort of obligation or commitments.
Yeah, that's good. I actually sometimes do that with things that I urgently need to get done. I'll be like, I'm not going to start my rounds until this is done. Because the thing is, I know I'm going to, even if I have to stay up till midnight, I'm going to finish my 16 rounds. But yeah, so that's the way of getting things done.
I was just thinking that we associate with Prabhupada, right, in a relationship. Sometimes it helps me to just kind of like ask him
what do you need to tell me today? What do I need to hear from you today?
Okay, good. Yeah, and we're going to get to that. I'm going to stop taking responses now because we need to move on. Because there's an exercise that I want you all to do. I'm going to teach you a nice reading technique. So we've talked about reading with a buddy, group reading, classes, but I really want to emphasize why private reading is very important. Just you and the book. Because we talked about how we're associating with Srila Prabhupada. So it's like if you're in a class, like a Shastra class or in a reading group or something, then it's kind of like you're hearing from Srila Prabhupada through his purports, but it's kind of like you're sitting in the temple room and Prabhupada's giving class to the group, right? It's a group experience. He's speaking to everybody and you're one buddy in that group, in the audience. But if you're in private reading, it's like it's just you and Srila Prabhupada. It's like you went to Prabhupada's private darshan room and you're sitting there with him one-on-one and he's speaking to you only. So in the class he's going to say general things that apply to everyone, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to learn a lot, you're going to go away feeling like, wow, that was great. But if you're in his room, he's going to tell you things that just apply to you, like you as an individual. He's going to be conscious of your personal needs, the level that you're at, the struggles that you're going through, and he's going to give you what you need specifically. So I've experienced this many times that it's only when I'm reading on my own that the books really speak to me as an individual. That I get, that they address the struggle that I'm going through, that somehow in the Prabhupada's purport, he gives me direction, to let me know how I need to go forward from this. He says some soothing words that heal the wounds that I'm suffering from right at the present moment. And it doesn't happen in the same way when I'm like in a class or in a group or just reading together. But it happens when I'm alone. So private reading, something like Premamrita was saying, well, I go to morning Bhagavatam class, I go to evening Gita class, but it doesn't replace our private reading. We still need to do that private reading because it's then when it's like I'm alone with Srila Prabhupada. This is when I'm like really bearing my soul, to Srila Prabhupada. And asking him to heal me, asking him to direct me, to speak to me, and creating a forum, a venue, a space where that can actually happen. So, yeah. But sometimes when we're doing our private reading, we're not having that experience. We're not having that deep personal connection, and that's because our reading may be influenced by the modes of material nature. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna goes through all different kinds of things in the modes. There's faith in the modes, work in the modes, knowledge in the modes, happiness in the modes, charity in the modes, sacrifice in the modes. So I would like to suggest that there's also reading in the modes. And we can do an analysis here. Reading in the mode of ignorance. So that's when you fall asleep while you're reading. Or you procrastinate, you put it off, I didn't get to it today, I'll do it tomorrow, or, I meant to take that course, but I don't think I'm up for it this year, maybe next year when it comes up again. Or I didn't join the reading group, now I'm not sure if I have the time, I'll maybe check in with myself in 6 months, right? We procrastinate and we don't do it. Or we do it, but begrudgingly, like, I have to read because this is what my ashram leader is telling me I have to do, or, but we don't really want to do it. Or we're reading, but we're not really, we're being skeptical. Like we're reading and we're like, I don't believe what Prabhupada's saying. I don't accept that. Kind of like a negative, without faith, like that. So the result of reading in the mode of ignorance is that, well, if you fall asleep, you end up not reading at all. But at least if you stay awake, but you might be bored, you're not applying your intelligence to it, or superficial. You might be confused because you're going in with that skepticism, that negativity, so understanding doesn't take place, and you might end up being disturbed. If you read something Prabhupada said, and you're just like, I don't like what he said. I don't agree with that. Slam the book closed. I'm not reading anymore. Right? So we can end up having a negative experience of reading that makes us not want to read anymore. So then moving up to the mode of passion. Reading in the mode of passion is like, alright, I'm going to finish the Bhagavatam in the next 6 months. 48 pages a day. Yeah! You know? I'm going to finish it before him. You know? it's like a competition. It's like, I'm going to conquer, you know, the Bhagavatam. Yes! By my strength, by my intelligence, I'm going to get it. After all, I've got this degree, that degree. I'm so intelligent. I'm going to understand everything. I'm going to figure it out. You know, like that kind of mood is the mode of passion. So, what does that lead to? It leads to pride. Because if you actually do it, you're going to be like, I read the Bhagavatam 10 times, CC 12 times. You know, how many times have you read it? Or, you know, I'm a scholar, you know, just hear all the shlokas that I know, just listen to my explanation, you know, or, you know, we read with an agenda. You know, we have our own ideas about what's right, or, you know, some philosophical viewpoint, and then we just read Prabhupada's books to try to get ammunition, you know, to get our weapons together so that we can make our arguments with full force and very solidly defeat our philosophical opponents like that. So that's reading in the mode of, that's what happens when you read in the mode of passion. You just end up becoming argumentative, proud, not making a lot of spiritual advancement, rather making offenses probably, despite your reading. So the lower modes always cause problems, right? They end up in distress. Mode of goodness is that you read out of a sense of duty, because it ought to be done. Because you heard all the glories of reading Prabhupada's books, you know that you should do it, you're a devotee, at least you're trying to be a devotee, this is how to be a devotee, so I should read. So you read, and you're in the mode of goodness, so you're able to discipline yourself, set aside a time, and you do your reading. And the result is that you feel peaceful, you feel satisfied. Wow, it's so nice to read Prabhupada's books. I really understood something new today. I want to share that with others. What a great life it is in Krishna consciousness. So you're feeling good because that's the result of the mode of goodness. You're feeling happy, you've got some knowledge, everything is nice. But there's a level beyond that, and that is the transcendental platform, transcendental reading. Reading in transcendence is that you're reading for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna, you're reading as a service, and you're praying for their mercy. You're praying for their guidance, for their illumination. You're really connecting very deeply to Krishna. You're having that personal association with Srila Prabhupada. You're hankering for that association. You're hankering for Prabhupada to reveal his instructions, his mercy to you through his books, like that. So we want to come to this transcendental platform because this is where we feel truly, deeply inspired. We feel blissful, we feel ecstatic reading Prabhupada's books, we feel connected to Prabhupada, to the Acharyas, to Krishna, to each other, and we get so much revelation. You know, we come to that point of not just understanding the words, but actually being able to get more out of it than it even is superficially present. Right? Like things, lights start coming on, like the same thing that you've read, 10 times before, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, oh my God, I never realized that Prabhupada was saying that, and it's like a whole new world of realization opens up on the transcendental platform. So that's where the juice is, that's the nectar for which we are always anxious. So how to get to that? I want to teach you a process that we learned last year at Govardhan, at Govardhan, with Bhuijan Prabhu, and this technique is called prayerful reading. So there's some steps to prayerful reading, but mainly it's about attitude. It's mainly about the attitude with which we approach the reading. So it's not begrudging, it's not to conquer, it's not even duty to get it done. It's seeking a connection. It's yearning for association with Srila Prabhupada. Like the same way that, sometimes you hear about how Prabhupada's disciples would just be hankering for Prabhupada's association. If Prabhupada was coming, everybody would just go there and sit there and hear from Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is alive in his books. We can get his association in his books. So just imagine if you're going to see Srila Prabhupada, what is your attitude going to be? You're going to be going with an open heart, with humility, with reverence, with affection, with a service attitude, with loving appreciation. So this is the attitude that we need to approach Srila Prabhupada. Even if many of us are initiated, when you're going to see your spiritual master, you might just be chanting really nicely and praying, please Krishna, reveal your will to me through the words of my guru. So in the same way, when we approach Srila Prabhupada's books, we can go with that prayerful mood, that Krishna, please, I need direction in my life. I'm a suffering soul here in this material world. I'm very confused about my life situation right now. I need to know how I can get to the next level, my Krishna consciousness. I need inspiration, to really go with that mood of begging, like a beggar of mercy, a beggar of knowledge, a beggar of wisdom. And then the books respond, because the books, they're not just, Shastra's not like an ordinary book. It's like, it's alive, it's like not different from Krishna. And so when we approach with that mood, just like any person, if you go up to some person and you're just kind of like dismissive and negligent or rude, how are they going to respond? They're just going to be like, whatever, But if you go to them like, Prabhu, I'm struggling, I really need some help, can we have some time together where you can, give me some guidance? Then how's the person going to respond? They're going to be like, sure, okay, I've got an hour later on this afternoon, let's set aside and, meet here, it's a nice quiet place, and we'll, I really want to hear from you and help out. So the book will respond to us like that. The book will literally respond to us like that, because it's personal. It's like a living person. So let's go through the steps here of prayerful reading. And these, I put guidelines in italics because there are no hard and fast rules for this, but these are guidelines. So the first thing is decide what to read. So we're going to actually do this. I want you all to just decide on something that you're going to read. Or you could open up something randomly, or if you're reading something already regularly, you can continue where you left off. But right now, just decide what you're going to read. And then, we don't have a lot of scope to do in this particular space because we're just a little confined here with a lot of people in one room. But if you're doing this on your own, then prepare the space. Set aside a peaceful place where you're not going to be disturbed. Put your phone on silent, and make sure that it's a conducive space for reading and for having a deep spiritual connection. Then prepare your heart. So really have that mood that I am a soul in need of help. I'm in the material world. It's not easy. I need some help. And open your heart to receive that. And be open to whatever way, shape, or form that help is going to come to you. Don't be looking for something specific, but just be open. Like, okay, Krishna, you know better than me. Just please enlighten me. Yeah, and pray for that. So that's part of that. And then when you start reading, read slowly. So it's not about getting to a certain number of verses. Even if you just read one sentence, and that sentence just hits you in a way that it never hit you before, just stop. Stop at that point, and just close your eyes, and just meditate on the meaning of that sentence, or you might want to read it over, 2, 3, 4 times again and again, and say another prayer like, wow, this is amazing. Help me to go more deep into this. And read slowly. As soon as something really hits you, and stop. And then pause for reflection. And you may also want to free write. At that point, you may have a lot of connections that go off in your heart, in your mind when you read that. So you might want to just start writing, because a lot of times when things are swirling in our minds, it's hard to pin it down and really have something tangible like to apply or to go away with. But if we start writing, somehow it all just kind of manifests, through the pen. Like free writing, not judging yourself, not just let the pen go, and whatever comes out, and at the end you'll be surprised what you just wrote there, and then that's something that you can go and apply later. And then once you feel like you're kind of done, you kind of just exhausted your reflection and thoughts and feelings on that point, then only continue reading. Okay, so it's not about quantity, it's about quality. We're trying to really, really connect with Krishna, with Srila Prabhupada, with the Acharyas through the reading. And feel their presence and feel their love and their guidance through the text. And then when we're done, we can offer thanks and gratitude for whatever we've received, and then go forth and apply the gifts. Use the gifts that we've been given from Shastra. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this. So everybody, I hope that does what I was saying. Bring a book or have a device on which you can access a book. So open up to whatever it is that you decided that you're going to read. If you didn't decide quickly, or just open up to anything. Anything will really do. Something from Srila Prabhupada. Offer pranams, or better is pray in your own words. Really call out for help, connect with Srila Prabhupada, and then when you feel like you've prepared your heart and offered your prayer, then start reading. I'm going to give you until 1:15. Okay, so that's a little more than 15 minutes to read, and then have your notebook ready if you want to note some things down, and just take the time to feel, to think, to reflect, to introspect, and go deep. Okay. A question?
But if I'm in the Bhagavatam after Prabhupada,
That's okay. Okay? Go. Your ecstatic conversations. Let's have 10 people say one, maximum 2 words about how they felt from this experience.
Enlivened.
Connected.
It was difficult.
Inspired.
Reassured.
Intentional and fruitful.
Amazed.
At least learn something.
Purifying. Felt good. Introspective.
Yeah, I think that was more than 10. Thank you very much. Thank you for being up for that. And I hope it's a practice that you'll be able to continue and set aside the time for. So just a couple last points that I want to make here is that we should never think that we finished the book. So sometimes you think, all right, I read the Bhagavad Gita, time for Bhagavatam, finished the Bhagavatam, CC, done that. All right, I guess I'm going to go into Acharya's literatures now, and this and that. Start reading the Rig Veda, and it's I feel like been there, done that, need to move on. So that's not the case, because like I was saying, these books, it's like you're dealing with a person, a transcendental person. This is Krishna. So it's like with a person, it's not that you just had one conversation, okay, I know that person next, No, it's like each time you talk to them, you go deeper into the relationship. You know them better, you know them more. It's ever increasing. There's no limit, actually, because we're dealing with the spiritual energy, which is unlimited. So, and here's a quote where Srila Prabhupada says that. Let's have someone please read this. Yes.
Even if one has read these topics many times, you should go on reading again and again, because Bhagavad Gita, the words spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna's devotees about Krishna, are Amrita, nectar. The more one drinks this Amrita, the more he advances in his eternal life. Even if we read the entire Bhagavad Gita every day, all 18 chapters, in each reading we shall find a new explanation. That is the nature of transcendental literature.
So we need to read again and again and again, the same books again and again and again. And each time we get a deeper meaning. So it's just like, we're all here in the material world and we're all suffering from, our conditioning, or the material disease. And it's like when you take a medicine, you'll get like a course. You have to take 2 tablets twice a day for many days, right? It's not that you just take 1 tablet, done. So we need to keep again and again taking the medicine, and then it has a cumulative effect that over the course of time, we gradually start feeling better. We gradually start seeing more clearly. Our perception of the world becomes more spiritual. Like as it was saying, Shastra Chakshus, and we start feeling more detached, we start feeling more inspired, we start realizing more about ourselves and our relationship with Krishna, and all these, it's ever increasing depth. So, there's a statement, one of the verses in Srila Prabhupada's book, in the 10th, it's 10.1.4, it says that it's hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing the pastimes of Krishna, it's the right medicine for curing the material disease. So we just need to keep taking this medicine again and again until we're cured. And then when we're cured, then it's like how to live our lives, then we enter into Krishna's transcendental pastimes every time we read. So this is, there's like a progression. Now let's take any pastime of Krishna. Let's say you're reading a Krishna book, so you're reading a pastime of Krishna. The first time you ever read it, it's like you're getting information. Okay, this is what Krishna did, right? This is, and Mother Yashoda said this, and Krishna did this, and this is what happened. You got the information. So you might feel like, okay, I know the pastime. No, you only got some information. That's it. Then the next time you read it, or it might take it multiple times, but sometime later, after successive readings, there's a sense of acceptance. Like, yes, I embrace this as the absolute truth. That this is a spiritual world, this is reality, this is where I want to be, when you read the pastime. Then it goes to taste. So then after successive readings, at one point, when you're reading it, you'll just be relishing it. You're just like, wow, this is just nectar, like you're just hanging on every word. You're feeling like invigorated and nourished and enlivened, and you just want to hear more and more details. You have questions, you want to just really churn the nectar of the pastime because you're tasting the sweetness of it. And then after that, you start to actually feel emotions, transcendental emotions, and you start to connect to the emotions of the personalities in those pastimes, right? You start actually like feeling what Mother Yashoda is feeling, and you start feeling what the cowherd boys are feeling, and it's a real emotional experience that you're having, and the love that those inhabitants of Braj, particular inhabitant of Braj, has for Krishna. You connect with the particular flavor of their love, and you want to relate with Krishna in the same way. So it's a very advanced state where you emotionally connect with the feelings and the feelings of the Krishna's associates in their loving service to him. And then after that, because you're feeling it, because you've tasted it and you're emotionally connecting, you develop a longing. You develop a very deep longing to actually be there. Like you want to, the way Mother Yashoda's interacting in the pastime, you want to be there. You want to help her. You want to be the one, she's trying to tie Krishna up with a rope. You want to be the one to go fetch another rope. Here, Mother Yashoda, I've got another one. This one should do the job. Oh, that one didn't work. Oh no, what are we going to do now? All right, I think the neighbor has a rope. Yeah, they tie their cows with this rope every day. I'll go ask them for another rope. Like you want to participate. You want to get in there and roll up your sleeves and be in the pastime and help and serve and assist the residents of Vrindavan in manifesting these pastimes which are so pleasurable for Krishna. And when our longing becomes so intense and our emotions become so strong, then after successive readings of that pastime, when we're reading the pastime again, we actually enter into the pastime in a very deep meditative trance. We start reading and then we're there. And we're taking part in the pastime, we're experiencing the pastime, and we're realizing many details about that pastime that are not even in the Krishna book. And that's how we have all these acharyas' commentaries, that's how they know these things. Sometimes we hear different little details about the pastimes, and we wonder, where are they getting that from? It's not in Bhagavatam, it's not in Bhagavad Gita, it's because they enter into the pastime, they're living the pastime. They're seeing it unfold before their eyes, and they know those details by first-hand experience, and they're sharing them. So this is what we have to look forward to with reading Srila Prabhupada's books. If we just do it, we will go through these stages, guaranteed. This is what it does. This is the goal, and this is how to attain it, and we just need to very deeply, prayerfully read. Approach Prabhupada's books with this attitude of humility, of, wanting to connect, deeply longing for the association of Srila Prabhupada and the acharyas and the personalities in the past times. And it's just a matter of time. Like Prabhupada say, we're already in the spiritual world. Only time is separating us, It's just, we just need to keep going. Just stay on the boat and we'll get there. So it's all very exciting. And I'm going to give you a little homework, is that sit down and make a personal plan for how you are going to actually read Prabhupada's books regularly and with quality. So just take some time after the lunch break and chalk it out, write it down, and try to hold yourself to it, or get an accountability partner to hold you to it. And I pray that all of you have a lifetime of relishing Srila Prabhupada's books, sharing them with others, going deeper and deeper in your realization of this transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness, that you're able to taste the nectar and get the full benefits of this great treasure that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So, thank you very much for your participation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hare Krishna, Bruce, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhupada Priya, for giving that enlightening talk. And for those of you who don't know, Prabhupada Priya is an educator, and she teaches a lot of courses. She was at Krishna for the past 5 years. And so, yeah, please do seek your association just over this weekend. And yeah, she's just a great person to be around. Thank you. Very well. So the following will be in the community hall, but before we go down, I just have a quick announcement to make from our organizers. They have asked me to just present this to all of you, so I will do that with my duty. So this festival is organized with the mood of bringing all the Krishna house devotees together, bringing anyone who's new to Krishna consciousness, who just wants to meet other people who are new to Krishna consciousness, and Devi now kind of facilitated everything. And I believe the fees were just very minimal, and I believe, I've been told, that it's somewhat expensive. So if anybody would like to sponsor a few things, please let us know, let me know. I think they're trying to raise about $500 to $1,000 to cover some extra expenses that occurred for this festival. So if anyone, in the bottom of your heart, give us $1 million or $100, you take off your rings, you take everything, cash, card, rings, gold, jewelry, kidneys. So yeah, but we'll have prasadam down there. Lunch will be at 1:30, then 3:30 we come back here for Radhika Ramantru. I don't miss that at all. I mean, there has to be some dire emergency for you to miss that. They just don't. I don't care if you're. Especially if you're dying, actually better. Here for Radhika Raman, you'll go back to God. So, I'm just kidding. If it's an emergency, call 911. But but be here at 3:30. Please be on time. He's such a nice devotee. It'll be really nice to hear from him. Sure.
We can just couple volunteers to serve out.
Oh yeah, and we need some volunteers to help serve us in prasadam. And those who serve, they'll get to make their own plans. And you can take as much, whatever Kadashi prasadam, I'm hoping from there, that you want. So yeah, we'll need some volunteers now. Srila Prabhupada.